I think you could say that acquiring Skinwalker Ranch was part of a religious journey, or at least my spiritual journey. I think most people on this planet at some time or another ask those long-standing questions. Where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? Is there a higher power? Is there a purpose to life? And I saw Skinwalker Ranch as a living laboratory where you could
find potentially some of the answers to those religious questions that so many people have.
Sure.
Right?
Or at least prove that we're not alone in the universe, or that our reality is not what it might seem.
Where does faith fit into that? Because with spiritual and religious beliefs, faith is believing that something exists without seeing it. You have faith that it's there, but you can't see it, you can't prove it. So how does faith fit into a place like Skinwalker where you want to know, you want to prove, you want to find?
People ask me all the time, do you consider yourself a believer? And my answer is that no, I'm not a believer. I'm an experiencer. I've actually experienced things on this ranch. I have witnessed things. I have data supporting what I believe to be the fact that there is something truly extraordinary happening.
Before I land at Skinwalker Ranch, you need to know something first. I'm only here because the owner of Skinwalker Ranch, Brandon Fugal, accepted my request to come. But that almost didn't happen. The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch is an ongoing reality show on the History Channel. It documents the endeavors of scientists and investigators hunting for supposed paranormal activity on the ranch. One of those scientists, and arguably the star of the show, is Dr. Travis Taylor. Publicly, Taylor has been very critical of my previous reporting for the basement office. A few days before my visit, Brandon Fugal called me to say Travis Taylor didn't want me at the ranch, and he asked Fugal to cancel my trip. To his credit, Fugal said no to Taylor. "Bring it on," he said. "I'm not scared of anyone." So here I am, and here we go.
Hey, Brian Arnold. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. This is Bryant Arnold, known by his nickname Dragon. He's the ranch chief security officer. On the History Channel show, he's often seen holding assault rifles, not to shoot aliens, but to protect them against wild animals like mountain lions, or to arrest human trespassers, which they say they've had a few.
Stephen, I'd like to introduce you to Eric Bard, principal investigator.
My pleasure.
This is Eric Bard, the ranch's principal investigator and chief scientist. A physicist and technical guru, Bard is behind the vast installation of the ranch's high-tech camera systems, monitoring devices, and other scientific equipment. On the show, he's often the first one to point out potential paranormal activity. And this is Thomas Winterton, the ranch's superintendent. He manages the maintenance and upkeep of the property and assists in the team's investigations. He claims to have had multiple paranormal encounters at the ranch. Not present was Travis Taylor. I sit down with the Skinwalker crew and bring up the first thing on my mind. This place, you guys have been here for 6 years. Mm-hmm. The 20 years prior to that comes with a lot of history, written history. The books are right over there.
A lot of stories.
Yeah, Bigelow, but a lot of stories. For 20 years, the ranch's previous owner, Robert Bigelow, claimed the ranch was crawling with UFOs, ghosts, and all kinds of monsters. Bigelow Associates released 2 books full of stories about horrifying creatures that stalked the ranch, including a bulletproof werewolf that couldn't be killed, no matter how many times they shot it. So now that Brandon Fugal and his investigators have been there for 6 years, have they seen these things?
Have you guys ever, any of you, seen such a creature?
I can only speak for myself personally, no.
No.
Have not.
We have no data under our investigation that supports that.
What about the half-dinosaur, half-beaver creature that the Bigelow team claimed to have seen at the ranch? Has the new Skinwalker crew ever seen the infamous dino beaver?
Have you...
I have never seen
I can't even ask the question. Have you ever seen a dino beaver?
No, I've never seen a dino beaver. I wouldn't even know what... That's an interesting name to come up with.
It sounds like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And what about the Bigelow claims of UFOs and scary creatures coming out of interdimensional tunnels and portals?
You've never seen a portal open up and a spaceship come out?
No.
Okay.
Or I've never seen a creature reach out and pull itself out and drop to the ground and walk off either. Never seen it.
No.
So it appears the ghouls and goblins of the Bigelow days are nowhere to be found in Brandon Fugal's version of Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm not saying anything negative about our predecessors. I'm just simply saying that it just sounds so ridiculous because it's so far outside the scope of what we are investigating and documenting over the course of the last 6 years.
It's obvious Fugal is trying to distance himself from the outlandish stories of the Bigelow era, calling some of them ridiculous. However, on the History Channel show that he produces, he takes a different tone.
In the early 90s, Robert Bigelow bought Skinwalker Ranch, and his team conducted a very aggressive scientific investigation. The Bigelow team ended up having all sorts of strange things happen.
With spooky music and dramatic effect, the Bigelow stories of the past are used to amplify, support, and validate Fugal's current endeavors. The story of a bulletproof wolf creature, for example, is presented a few times in Fugal's show, with a very legitimizing tone.
A very large wolf came in off the plains. The father then went inside, got a weapon, and came out and started shooting at it. Point blank, right here, shooting at the wolf.
They encountered these giant wolf-like creatures that the Native Americans would refer to as skinwalkers, and were literally impervious to gunshots.
As we previously reported, Robert Bigelow never presented any evidence at all to support any of his claims about wolf creatures or other monsters at Skinwalker Ranch. And beyond just stories, neither does Fugal.
I've heard that this ground here is the gateway for these shapeshifters or these skinwalkers.
Yeah.
All that notwithstanding, there is one spooky thing from the Bigelow days that Fugal and his team openly claim to be true. The Hitchhiker. A malevolent phenomena that supposedly attaches itself to people, attacks them, and causes a wide range of injuries to their bodies.
The hitchhiker phenomena, according to you, is real.
We have data demonstrating that there is validity to those claims.
Illnesses and injuries have occurred at your ranch.
Absolutely.
This, of course, leads me to an obvious question.
I have to ask this question. Why are you guys here? If that is a threat, and if that is a potential, and if that can happen at any moment, what are you doing here?
The best person to answer that question is sitting right here.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, in 2017, I suffered a head injury that nearly cost me my life.
Thomas says he felt pain in his head, but had no idea what was causing it.
A doctor was preparing my wife and kids for the fact that I may not pull out of it. People ask, well, why do you go back? I come back for several reasons. First being is something that almost cost me my life became very personal. I'd like to get some answers. I'd like to know what happened.
Thomas claims doctors ran dozens of tests on him, but were left baffled as to the cause or source of his head injury.
When I was discharged from the hospital, they literally didn't know what the diagnosis was.
Really?
And so I had to sign a paper on discharge where they stated they didn't know what had taken place.
That's really interesting and difficult for me to process. You know, that's unique. And it's not the only case, from what I understand.
On the History Channel show, there are quite a few times when cast members appear to be afflicted by some kind of invisible force. Often, they end up in urgent care with various diagnoses. To be sure, it is quite shocking to watch.
We have had numerous acute medical episodes occur with participants, unfortunately, under my stewardship.
Okay.
That's why I had you sign the same liability waiver.
I had to sign a health waiver.
Yeah, the waiver of liability is something that we have required.
The waiver Fugal required me to sign before coming to Skinwalker explicitly said I could be seriously injured or worse from the paranormal phenomena at the ranch. I personally didn't feel scared at all because I didn't believe it. But deep down, I'll admit, I wondered, what if? It was time to take a tour. Fugal asked me what I'd like to see first. I tell him I want to see where it all started. This is the house where, in 2007, James Lakatsky, then a scientist for the Defense Intelligence Agency, claims he witnessed a glowing paranormal apparition floating in midair. And because of this experience, Lakatsky approached Senator Harry Reid about creating an official Pentagon program to study UFOs and related phenomena such as the ghostly object he claims to have seen. Funded with taxpayer money, the OSAP program, among other things, investigated supposed paranormal phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch. The OSAP program eventually ended up on the front page of the New York Times in a factually inaccurate article. That erroneous article led to a viral media circus, which has culminated with Congress spending more taxpayer money on UFOs. But the story, in many ways, started here, in this house at Skinwalker Ranch. Candace Lynn and Tom Lewis currently live in this house as the ranch's caretakers. They invite us inside to take a look.
So you have the kitchen right there, but it's right here. So James was actually standing right here when he saw appear where you're standing.
Right where I'm standing?
So this is strange. The story is now different. Because James Lakatsky stated multiple times that he saw the object in the kitchen. However, now that the Fugal team mistakenly thinks Lakatsky had his experience in the foyer, almost like in a game of telephone, they now have their own new spooky stories about the foyer.
This is a special spot in the house. We've had multiple people witness something in front of this window, between the door and the window.
Yeah.
So it wasn't only the military guy.
Kristen was standing right here
and
saw, looking toward the same area that James had been looking toward, and suspended in the air was this grid-like structure.
And then some other people who've been here wouldn't even sit.
Right. They won't even sit in front of this window.
You do have a camera.
Yes, we do. In fact, that's the only inside camera we have because of the strangeness.
Brilliant. That's exactly where I was going. I was like, have you thought about putting a There it is. Okay, great. Ever captured anything?
We've captured something because I have it set up so it turns on if it gets any motion, and it'll turn on sometimes. We haven't yet seen anything.
Oh. We left the ranch house, and Fugal leads me towards a rocky hill where he says a mysterious symbol is engraved in stone.
Is this the trail? Yep. Come.
Oh, we're going literally off the beaten trail. Brandon, do you ever
dress ranch appropriate?
This is me dressing down.
This is you dressing down.
This is me.
That's him casual.
This is me casual. This is as casual as I get.
The symbol, carved into the rock, is said to be over 200 years old and is apparently a symbol from Freemasons.
So we've had a number of experts look at this symbol and determine that it is communicating as above, so below.
As above, so below is a historical phrase appropriated in modern times to describe the symbiotic relationship between Earth, below, and heaven, above. It was above this exact rocky mesa where Fugal claims the first UFOs of his Skinwalker Ranch tenure appeared. In June 2016, 2 months after buying Skinwalker from Robert Bigelow, a hired surveyor on the ranch called Fugal to say he had taken a photo of a UFO. At the time, Fugal was back in Salt Lake City.
And I told him, stop everything. Do not talk to anyone. Do not stop anywhere. I need you to come straight here.
This is the photo the surveyor drove 3 hours to physically show Fugal. And this is the supposed UFO.
It is a, bona fide, unidentified flying object. And it zipped away.
The description of the object zipping off comes only from the hired surveyor. Fugal would later have a falling out with this surveyor for becoming, in his words, unreliable. After 6 months of owning Skinwalker Ranch, Fugal still had not personally seen anything strange or paranormal.
And I was visiting every month, sometimes a couple of times a month. Stephen, I didn't see anything unusual. I didn't feel anything unusual when visiting the property.
But this all changed with a phone call in October 2016 from Fugal associate and former CIA scientist Kit Green. Green asked Fugal if a successful surgeon he knew and his entourage could visit the ranch. Fugal agreed. During their visit, Fugal claims the group felt sensations of dizziness and vertigo. Their phone batteries inexplicably died, and one of the surgeon's security guards supposedly blacked out, unconscious. It was after all this weirdness that Fugal says he finally saw his first UFO with his own eyes above the Rocky Mesa.
Right ahead of us, above the mesa, in broad daylight, within fairly close proximity, is a 40 to 50 foot silver grayish disc-like object.
Fugal says the object began moving erratically, back and forth, before it darted off and disappeared.
And then within a few seconds, it's gone, almost like a bullet shooting off into the distance.
Since all of their phones were dead, photos and videos of this sighting don't exist. However, while reviewing photos taken earlier that day, they discovered a photo that allegedly shows a saucer-like UFO in the sky.
And it looks strangely similar to what the three of us, had sighted above the mesa.
Later that day, the surgeon and his entourage left the ranch. Fugal says he never saw them again. But if he had been a skeptic about the ranch before, as he claims, this series of events converted him into a full believer.
It was a game-changing experience. For me, it changed my entire perspective relative to the ranch. I felt a new urgency and imperative.
Fugal would then increase his investment in Skinwalker Ranch, doubling his efforts to find the truth behind these supposed paranormal events. We walk down from the Rocky Mesa and get inside Jurassic Park-type Jeeps to take a Jurassic Park-type tour of the 500-acre ranch. Here are the property's borders as seen from above. This is the ranch headquarters, known as Homestead 1. This is the Rocky Mesa, where Fugal showed me the mysterious Masonic symbol carved in stone. We drive along this dirt road, and to our left, see the first of 3 observation towers, or bait pens, from the Bigelow days.
Yeah.
You call them the bait cage or
Bait
something?
pen.
Bait pen.
Yeah, you'd have animals. You'd either have livestock or dogs
Yep.
as biosensors to draw the phenomena.
Bigelow would place animals in these pens as bait, and then ranch investigators would wait for a predator ghost monster to show up and, I don't know, maybe attack the animal or something. By the way, when I say predator, I literally mean predator.
Entities that were cloaking their presence, much like you see on the motion picture Predator from decades ago.
Further down the road, we enter the Triangle, a location never really mentioned by the Bigelow team, but has suddenly become a center of supposed paranormal activity during Fugal's tenure. This is a point in the ranch where you have decided something is centered or happens more often. There's something,
There is a high
pattern.
Yes, there is a high frequency of unexplained activity, including electromagnetic anomalies that occur here.
Right here. Fugal's team believes there is some kind of spooky, invisible anomaly in the air above the Triangle.
We've been talking about the area over the Triangle being some sort of anomaly, potentially a portal, one end of a wormhole, something. What if that's the
gateway?
What if that's the other end of the wormhole?
Past the Triangle, within a small patch of trees, is Homestead 2. Arguably the most iconic location on the ranch, it's a group of abandoned and desolate buildings where families used to live nearly 100 years ago. Fugal tells me Homestead 2 is possibly the most haunted spot on the ranch, a nexus of all kinds of paranormal activity.
Unexplained phenomena, for whatever reason, seems to be focused, or at least a higher degree of it is focused in this area.
According to the stories of the Bigelow era, this place was supposedly the site of shocking paranormal things, like monster spiders, portals to another dimension, poltergeist activity. And this is the location where Bigelow investigators claim they saw the infamous Dino Beaver. Fugal and his team haven't seen any monster spiders or dino beavers. They do say they have recorded strange, unknown anomalies on various scientific devices. Like the time they brought out the rabbi from Ancient Aliens, who's written books about aliens, to say a prayer in front of Homestead 2, and they noticed the temperature changed a little bit as the Ancient Aliens rabbi said the prayer.
The rabbi said it was a chant that's supposed to open up a portal.
I don't know. I guess I was secretly hoping for monster spiders. We step outside the homestead, and I ask the team if they'd ever encountered ghostly voices from invisible entities, like previous Bigelow investigators had claimed they had. Have there ever been any moments of that? Disembodied voices, telepathic voices, you?
Yes, 3 times on this ranch.
Thomas tells me a story where he and his wife went to the ranch headquarters alone in the middle of the night to troubleshoot a technical problem with one of the ranch surveillance cameras. He says the moment they arrived, they felt uneasy.
It was not a good feeling that night. It was one, when you come in the gates, the hair start standing up on your arms.
While troubleshooting at a computer, they heard various strange sounds, but nothing was there. And then, he says, a voice spoke to them.
It sounded like a male or a man standing between my wife and I. We both heard it at the exact same time, just said, "You need to leave now." And my wife and I looked at each other, just like, "Did you hear that?"
How loud was it?
About like that. "You need to leave now." And I thought it was auditory. Okay, we both thought we were hearing it with our ears. I went to reach forward for the mouse, and on this download, and we heard it a second time. "You need to leave now."
Frightened, Thomas and his wife did leave. But he says he would hear a similar disembodied voice on the ranch on 2 other occasions.
And at this point, having been raised very religious, the Holy Ghost, the still small voice, right? That's what I assigned it to.
Thomas grew up in the Mormon religion. The Holy Ghost in Mormonism is described as a still small voice and is believed to be a real spiritual entity that comforts you, guides you, and sometimes literally talks to you. I also grew up Mormon, and I would often hear church members tell stories about a voice that spoke to them. Usually, in most of the stories I heard, the voice was a warning. Don't go down that alleyway. Don't go to that party. Don't get in that car. For Thomas, he says he heard,
"You need to leave now."
It's hard not to notice how religion plays a role in a Skinwalker Ranch. Specifically, Mormonism. Does Mormonism directly or indirectly play a role?
That's a valid question. When you have so many participants that have a similar cultural background or cultural programming.
Everyone in the Skinwalker crew that I met that day had at one point been involved with the Mormon Church.
I was curious, you guys, is everyone here at this table either current Mormon, grew up Mormon, Mormon heritage, that kind of thing? I was just curious about it, culturally.
I would say, yeah, we've all have experiences, and we're all in different places with that, I would say.
That's how I met Brandon.
Yeah.
I was his mission trainer.
Oh, you were his senior companion?
That's correct.
He was my father.
Yeah, you guys were...
He was my senior companion, my trainer in Hawaii.
Fugal and Arnold met each other on a Mormon mission in Hawaii in 1992. And as someone who also served a Mormon mission and was, at one point, actively involved with the church, it's hard not to notice the religion's subtle influences here at Skinwalker Ranch.
Mormon theology, I believe, provides a very compelling roadmap or explanation when it comes to understanding our place in the universe. I mean, I love my faith. I was raised to believe that we're not alone in the universe, that there are worlds without number, that there is a higher power, that there is a divine, inspired nature to our existence.
When Fugal says there are worlds without number, that comes directly from Mormon theology. In the church, it's taught that there are multiple dimensions of reality, separated by a spiritual fabric of space-time they call the veil. Within all of these dimensions are worlds without number, worlds full of people who are alien to our Earth. Traveling between these dimensions is possible through the power of God and through the power of Satan. It should be noted that Harry Reid, the late U.S. Senator who believed there was indeed something paranormal at Skinwalker Ranch, and who went on to sponsor the creation of a Pentagon program to study and investigate the ranch, was also a lifelong member of the Mormon Church. When asked by journalist and former Bigelow associate George Knapp how he reconciled his Mormon beliefs with a study of the paranormal, Reid said this:
Anyone that's looked at Mormonism at all understands that we believe that there are other worlds, and so Joseph Smith, when he was murdered at 38, he came up with this idea. He claimed he got it from, as we believe, from divine intervention, but he was right and others are wrong, because I think there's no question that there are other worlds.
But proving that scientifically has been somewhat elusive. Proving that there's an afterlife, that there are other dimensions of reality. And I think at Skinwalker Ranch, we truly have accomplished what no one else has accomplished, and that is we've proven that there is more to our reality than meets the eye.
Fugal saying he's proven some of these things intrigues me, because throughout the day, I'd heard lots of emphatic claims and compelling stories. but I still hadn't seen anything with my own eyes. So I asked them to show me. We enter the ranch command center. What was once Robert Bigelow's bedroom is now a very impressive headquarters full of high-tech computers, monitors, and other scientific devices. Fugal has spared no expense in buying top-of-the-line equipment for his investigations at the ranch.
That in particular, that's a $30,000
This is
computer.
the brain.
It's a supercomputer.
Supercomputer.
Yeah, well, here.
It looks like a few black and white photos I've seen.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Huh? What is this? It says Satan 1.
Right. So that's an acronym. It's a Sentinel Assignment, Telemetry, and Notification.
Including Satan, Eric Bard has assigned religious names to various pieces of equipment. Cain, Adam, Eve.
I've got something to show you.
Oh, please.
Okay.
Eric Bard then reveals brand new evidence he just found on the ranch. So new, Fugal hasn't even seen it yet.
This is the first time I'm seeing this material.
It's a crystalline material, and there's an abundance of it out at the Homestead area.
Wow. Have you analyzed this yet?
No.
Where did you find this?
This is out in the vicinity of Homestead, too. It's
Under the ground? On the ground?
You can see it reflecting light on the surface of the ground.
Huh. And you've never seen it before? Meaning it stuck out to you as something new?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is something that could be perfectly natural, but, you know, it raises questions. Is this only found in that area? Could it have some relationship to the phenomenology itself out there?
Is it natural? What kind of process could have caused this? Is it geologic?
Yeah, so we're gonna take a closer look at this.
Okay.
I decide I need to see more than just normal-looking rocks discovered where rocks are usually found. Fugal has installed dozens and dozens of surveillance cameras on the ranch, and all of that video comes through here, and computers highlight any movement or strangeness. So with cameras all over the place, running 24/7 for many years now, what are the best examples of paranormal activity they've captured on video?
What are some of the best examples of something anomalous?
This is what he shows me.
Go ahead, say it out loud. What's your first impression? And what's the first thing that comes to mind when you see that movement?
Bug.
Yes.
I see a spider hanging from a web that is not being picked up on camera, and the wind blowing it is what I see. You could see legs almost. It almost looks like a body with legs going like this.
Okay.
See?
Okay.
The video clip is only 20 seconds long. As such, we're not able to see what occurred before or after the blurry bug thing appeared. This limits the ability to fully come to a conclusion.
So this thing goes out of sight, and that's it. That's it. So is it conclusive? No, I don't think it is, but boy, it's interesting.
They show this same clip on the History Channel show, but they edit it in a way that makes it seem like it appears out of thin air.
I really want your thoughts on what this might be.
What on earth is that?
Then, after only briefly looking at it, Travis Taylor suggests the blurry bug thing might be something like...
I'll tell you what it reminds me of. The Tic Tac UAP video. The UAP that appeared in the Tic Tac video that was recorded by the USS Nimitz Group in 2004.
What? Here's some night vision footage I found of a spider spinning a web. These white orbs are just the infrared reflecting off the silk. It's not a perfect match, but it makes more sense than a Tic Tac UFO that can travel at 80,000 miles an hour. This is the next video that they show me.
Okay. Yeah, so something's up here moving what I think is like a moth.
It's very bug-like, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very erratic and bug-like.
Mm-hmm. Here's the problem. Look at the timestamp. Look at the date.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cold.
Yeah.
Oh, it's middle of winter.
Yep.
Okay.
You see the problem?
Yeah.
Now, the thing that caught my attention about this is the way this thing exits the scene. I could see that this object literally shrinks as it recedes, as if towards the horizon. Really fast. Okay, so here we go. See what happens there?
Play it again.
So here we go.
It's like the Millennium Falcon hits hyperspace, you know?
And that's why sometimes when I play this for people, I'll make that noise.
While it may be fun to pretend that this is a craft zipping away at high speed, in reality, there is simply not enough data there to fully identify what it is.
Do you understand how someone could go down a rabbit hole, an endless rabbit hole, on something like this, where when I see that, I'm like, I think that's a moth. Pending any new data beyond this one video, is it worth my time, really, to obsess about it?
There is no authoritative answer. You're the one who's going to provide that answer.
And this is the final video I'm shown. In one of the ranch's abandoned buildings, in the middle of the day, two glowing objects float in midair. A bird flaps around and squawks. The two objects appear to float up towards the bird. The bird then flies away.
Oh, dude, the instant it reaches the bird, it flies away.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to give me one or two prosaic explanations for this.
Sure. Caterpillars, the silkworms?
Yes.
Like the caterpillars, they do that. They hang, they suspend in air like that. And so when I saw...
Let's take a look. I like this comparison.
The other thing that makes me think it's not this is just the light. There does seem to be a source of light.
Right.
That is strange, though. I'll give you that. That is weird. Why should your average person care? Is it, in the grand scheme of things, is what I just saw on this, like, who cares?
So we've gone from seeing two flashes of light in a carriage house to some really deep dive philosophical questions. And to me, that's at least part of the point of this.
Okay.
I like this discourse. I like to take it there. Take a moment and forget about all the other mundane stuff, the stuff that goes on in daily life, and think for a moment about, well, what would it mean to me if I were to see that type of an event? Okay, I don't think there's just one answer to this. I have my answer, you have yours, I think, I would assume.
But I think what you just said is, what would happen if?
Yes.
That question, what would happen if, I think sums up UFOs, the paranormal.
Yes.
All of it. Is that what would happen if?
Brandon Fugal flies back to Salt Lake City to attend to his real estate business. He's given me permission to sleep overnight in a tent out at Homestead too, by myself. I was about to head out when Thomas and Eric sat me down and tried to talk me out of it.
We've never allowed somebody to be out there by themselves, alone, just because of all the safety, the health issues that we've had.
They asked me if I'd be okay if they came out with me and remained close throughout the night as a safeguard in case anything happened to me. I said no.
I wanted to be alone out there,
Okay.
to experience it alone.
Sure.
I think having like chaperones up on the hillsides isn't what I planned on doing.
It soon became apparent to me that they were indeed legitimately worried about me. I could see in their eyes real, genuine concern.
You guys are worried about me. You're really worried about me, aren't you?
This isn't ghost tales that we've made up to put narrative out there. These are things where real live individuals that were here suffered serious consequences.
They tell me they're concerned because multiple people have been previously attacked and injured by paranormal forces on the ranch, specifically out at Homestead too. And there was no cell phone reception out there. If If something happened to me, I'd be on my own.
Here's the deal. If we send you over there by yourself and something bad happens and we're over here, not only are we worried about the fact that we may not be able to get to you in time, and I'll tell you right now, I've personally been on cases where it came down to minutes of getting somebody off. I mean, it was that serious of an issue.
I finally agree to take a walkie-talkie with me to at least remain in radio contact with the team. Before I head out, Eric tells me,
Your presence here is an experiment. It literally could yield data.
He's curious to see if I will provoke the paranormal into revealing itself.
I'm in the bait pen. I'm in the bait pen.
I wasn't thinking of it in those terms.
Bait. Yeah.
Right.
Like a worm on a hook.
I appreciate it.
As I drove out onto the ranch, it felt like I was inside a church, a 500-acre church, where believers saw miracles, signs, and wonders. And I, a skeptic, saw nothing. Was I missing something? Was I blind? Would a night at Skinwalker Ranch open my eyes? Was I in for some kind of unholy baptism?
Hopefully they're not showing this footage at my funeral.
As I set up my tent outside supposedly the most dangerous place on the ranch, I thought about the concern in the eyes of Thomas and Eric. They were probably wondering what kinds of terrible things awaited me. What kind of monsters would soon reveal themselves? What kind of ghosts would haunt me? Was I worried about those things? No. But as the sun set and my night at Skinwalker Ranch began, I found myself wondering, what if